This how cold MJ is. I'm giving y'all, I've never said this. One dude, this got word around, you know, MJ, we all hanging out afterwards. One street dude come up there, got a bag of 100. MJ, let's gamble.
Michael Jordan. The name alone sparks memories of dominance, greatness, and a level of competitive fire that redefined basketball. A 6-time NBA champion, 5-time MVP, and the undisputed GOAT in the eyes of many, Jordan wasn't just a superstar, he was the standard. From his gravity-defying dunks to his clutch performances, MJ didn't just win games, he took over them. But his legacy isn't just about the numbers. It's about the mentality, the mindset, and the fear he instilled in opponents. His impact is so massive that even decades after his final game, his influence still runs through the league.
He was a motherfucker both times, because he was still talking that shit.
Yep, still talking
Still
shit.
talking that shit. He was still skilled. It was just health with him.
From young stars chasing greatness to established legends who grew up idolizing him, Jordan remains the measuring stick for basketball excellence. Today, we're breaking it all down. What do current NBA players really think about his airness? Michael Jordan? Luka Dončić has already made a name for himself as one of the most skilled players of his generation, a master of footwork, a wizard with the ball, and a player whose game is often compared to legends of the past. But despite all the accolades, records, and comparisons, there are still moments that remind him just how big basketball history really is. In one of those moments, hearing Michael Jordan say his name, for Luka, it wasn't just another meet and greet or a casual encounter. It was something surreal. I mean, that's amazing. I don't know how to explain that moment. It's just unbelievable. You know, MJ knows my name. It's a lot. So it was just an unbelievable moment.
This is Hussein from Switch Podcast. I do have a question. Who's your greatest player of all time, and what's your all-time 5?
I have no words for that. Think about that for a second. Here's Luka Dončić, a player who has taken the NBA by storm, dropped historic triple-doubles, shattered records, and led his team to deep playoff runs, and yet simply hearing Michael Jordan recognize him left him speechless. That's the power of Jordan's name. Luka has gone up against the best of the best, yet even among all those legends, MJ stands on a different level. Why? Because Jordan isn't just a basketball legend, he's basketball royalty. There's a reason why players across generations, even those who never got to watch him live, still see Jordan as untouchable. His name carries an aura, a presence that transcends stats and championships. For Luka, that moment wasn't just about being recognized, it was about feeling connected to the history of the game. Because when Michael Jordan knows your name, that means you're doing something right. When it comes to scoring impact and pure basketball mastery, few players in NBA history can hold a candle to Kevin Durant. A 2-time NBA champion, 4-time scoring champion, and one of the most unstoppable offensive forces the game has ever seen, Durant has spent his entire career chasing greatness. And for him, greatness had a name, Michael Jordan. In an interview, Durant spoke about MJ's overwhelming influence, not just as a player, but as a cultural icon who shaped the entire sport. I mean, Jordan was everything. You know, he was the standard. He was what you strive to be as a basketball player. I mean, obviously the shoes, the jersey sales, the commercials, all of that stuff was constant. But when you watched the play, and your eyes were always glued to the TV, glued to him, and he just personified winning and competitiveness. And, as a young player, I took from that. For Durant, Jordan wasn't just the best player of his time, he was the blueprint. The way MJ moved, the way he carried himself, the way he refused to lose, it all set the standard for what it meant to be great. It wasn't just about being talented, it was about being relentless. It wasn't just about putting up big numbers, it was about making sure those numbers translated to winning. And Jordan, he was the perfect example of both. Even with all the hype surrounding his shoes, his commercials, and his off-court brand, Jordan's real power wasn't in the marketing. It was in the way he played the game. When you watched him, you couldn't look away. Every drive to the basket was calculated, every fadeaway jumper was unstoppable, and every game felt like a championship game. That's what Durant studied. That's what he internalized. Because when you're a young hooper dreaming of making it to the NBA, you don't just look up to great players. You try to absorb everything that made them great. For KD, Jordan was the ultimate lesson in competitive fire, and decades later, that fire is still burning in the players he inspired. Few players in NBA history have carried the weight of constant comparisons like LeBron James. For years, the debate has raged. Hold on, you said LeBron James is the greatest player ever? What about Michael and Kobe? So you're just going to pass Kobe up like that? I'm going to pass Kobe up. I'm going to look at Michael. LeBron versus Jordan, who's the real GOAT? Who had the tougher competition? Who left the bigger impact? But if you ask LeBron himself, there's no debate. Because when he met Michael Jordan for the first time, it wasn't just a handshake between two all-time greats. It was something much bigger. When I met Michael Jordan for the first time, I literally couldn't believe it was him. I couldn't believe it. Like, the dude looked like Jesus Christ to me. He looked like Black Jesus. I could tell me anything different. That wasn't just admiration, that was pure awe. Think about it. This is LeBron James, a generational superstar, a player who entered the league with the nickname The Chosen One, someone who had been carrying expectations since he was 16 years old. And yet standing in front of Michael Jordan, he felt like a kid again. Because for LeBron, like so many others, Jordan wasn't just a player, he was an icon. Growing up, LeBron watched MJ dominate the 90s, turn the Bulls into a dynasty, and redefine what it meant to be a winner. For him, Jordan was the standard, the blueprint, the unreachable legend, and in that moment, when he finally met him, all those years of watching, idolizing, and studying came rushing back. This wasn't a peer. This was the man who inspired his entire basketball journey. No matter how much LeBron has accomplished, the titles, the MVPs, the records, he never forgets who came first. When you think of game changers in NBA history, Steph Curry is at the top of the list. His deep-range shooting, his ability to bend defenses, and the way he redefined modern basketball put him in a category reserved for only the most influential players the sport has ever seen. And yet, even with everything he's accomplished when it comes to greatness, there's still one name that stands above the rest: Michael Jordan. Curry once had the chance to talk with MJ over the summer, and their conversation wasn't about basketball. It was about golf, of all things. But somehow, even in that setting, Jordan's legendary mindset still came through. The best part is I talked to MJ over the summer when I did an interview with him talking about golf. Ironically, and he would be disappointed, I think, if I didn't have that confidence in my team, because if anybody is going to try to measure up with him in the dynasty of the Bulls, you can't have no other attitude than that. So, I love it though, because as any hoophead and anybody who watched that team, you know how great they were and how great he is, the greatest ever. Like, what are we talking about? That's pure Jordan. Even in a casual conversation, MJ's obsession with winning and his uncompromising standards came through. For Curry, that interaction wasn't just about respecting Jordan's dominance, it was about understanding his mentality. Because for Jordan, confidence wasn't just a trait, it was a necessity if you wanted to compete at the highest level. If you wanted to measure up to the greats, there was only one acceptable mindset. You have to believe you're the best. That's exactly how Jordan operated throughout his career, and that's exactly how Curry approaches the game today. Just like MJ, Curry has built a dynasty, led a revolution, and completely changed the way the game is played. But the greatest ever? That title still belongs to his airness, and Curry, one of the most transformative players in NBA history, has no problem admitting that. Anthony Edwards isn't one to mince words. Known for his swagger, confidence, and electrifying style of play, Edwards has quickly become one of the NBA's most entertaining young stars. He talks big, plays bigger, and never backs down from any challenge. But when it comes to Michael Jordan, even Anthony knows when to keep it simple. No moves, man. Shout out to MJ. He the GOAT. I wish y'all stop comparing me to him. That's it. Short, direct, no debate necessary. Edwards has heard the comparisons, his athleticism, his fearlessness, his ability to take over games. Some people even see shades of young MJ in his style. But to him, there's only one Michael Jordan, and he doesn't want his name in that conversation. It's rare to see a young star reject comparisons to greatness, but that just speaks to the respect Jordan commands. Edwards knows he's talented. He knows he's got the tools to be a superstar. But Jordan? That's different. Some players try to chase the GOAT, others just recognize the gap and keep hooping. For Anthony Edwards, there's nothing more to say. MJ is the GOAT, end of story. Zach LaVine is no stranger to highlight reel moments with jaw-dropping athleticism, a silky jumper, and elite scoring ability. LaVine has spent his career electrifying crowds, just like a certain Bulls legend did before him. And as a Chicago Bulls star himself, LaVine understands the weight of that jersey better than most. So, when he talks about Michael Jordan, it's not just admiration. It's a deep appreciation for the way MJ carried himself both on and off the court. I was a huge Michael Jordan fan, and I think all of us were, just seeing how he interacted with his teammates and how he moved as a player and the way his mind worked. You know, you can watch all the stats you want to and all the highlights, but seeing, dudes in practice or having up-close interviews is different. So, I thought it was eye-opening, to be honest. It's crazy that they were still that popular and that famous. For LaVine, being a fan of Jordan wasn't just about the highlights. It was about seeing how he operated behind the scenes. Stats and mixtapes will tell you that MJ was a dominant force, but what really separates him is what you see in those raw, unfiltered moments. How he demanded excellence from his teammates, how he dissected the game mentally before it even happened, and how he carried himself like the biggest star in the world but still worked like an underdog. That's what struck LaVine the most. Watching MJ in interviews or behind the scenes showed a different level of intensity, focus, and presence. And the fact that Jordan's popularity hasn't faded one bit, even decades after he retired, speaks for itself. LaVine understands firsthand what it means to be the face of the Chicago Bulls, but he also knows that no matter how many stars come through the city, MJ will always be the guy. Jordan's legacy isn't just about what he did on the court, it's about the way he made people feel. And no matter how much time passes, that feeling never fades. For Jason Tatum, basketball isn't just a sport, it's a legacy passed down through generations. And when you talk about legends who shaped the game, one name stands above the rest, Michael Jordan. Tatum never had the chance to watch MJ play live, but that didn't stop him from feeling his impact every time he picked up a basketball. It means so much to myself and to just the game of basketball. All the millions and millions of people he has inspired doing what he loves. Kids like myself, even though I never got to see him play live, but, watching highlights growing up and just understanding, who he was and how much he meant to the game of basketball. Tatum's words capture something special about Jordan's legacy. Most players look up to stars they watched growing up, players who shaped the game in their era. But Jordan? His greatness transcends time. Even players who never saw him live, players who grew up in the eras of Kobe, LeBron, and Curry, still recognize him as the gold standard. Because when you watch MJ's highlights, you're not just seeing a dominant scorer or an elite defender. You're watching a mentality, the drive to win at all costs, the ability to take over a game whenever he wanted. The swagger, the confidence, and the intimidation factor that made him untouchable. Jordan didn't just play basketball, he turned it into an art form. And that's why, even generations later, young stars like Jason Tatum still look up to him as the ultimate inspiration. From Luka to LeBron, from KD to Steph, from young stars to legends in their own right, every generation of NBA players has felt Jordan's impact. His airness isn't just a part of basketball history, he is basketball history.